Hi, I'm Gary. See how I made this Airfix Hawker Hurricane. Hi, I'm Gary. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. So today, indeed, I'm making this. The Hawker Hurricane Mk.I in 1/72 scale from Airfix. It's a starter set. It will make a kit that's, what's it say here, 13 centimetres long, 17 centimetres wide, and there are 53 parts in the kit. I'll be using just what comes with the box, the paintbrush, glue and paints that you get with it, but I will use just a handful of other really easy to get tools. For pretty much every build, I use side snips to take parts off the frames, a craft knife to help clean them up, tweezers for handling the smaller parts, sanding sticks. I make my own, but you can use things like emery boards, nail files as well, some clamps, or again you can use just regular clothes pegs if you want, and some masking tape. And if you're using regular masking tape, make sure it's a low tack variety for delicate surfaces. If you do like the show, remember please, thumbs up on the button down there, and if you want, subscribe to the channel maybe. Click the bell and you'll be notified of every new build as I put it up online, indeed every other video I make. So let's get on then and make our Hawker Hurricane Mk.I. This gift set is listed at skill level 1, so it can be made by pretty much anyone. It also comes with one flying hour token. Now you can collect these as a member of the Airfix Club towards a free kit in the future, or you can donate them to Models for Heroes. A link to this charity is in the information box below. I'm making this kit just with what comes in the box plus a few everyday tools. So now, why don't we look at what we get given by Airfix. The box opens at one end like this, then I can get the contents out, tip it up to make sure it's empty. So the first thing to look at is this plastic bag full of the parts for the kit. There are 4 grey plastic sprues, as we call them, containing the main parts. These seem very well moulded with sharp lines and clean edges. Then there is this bag with the transparent parts. This includes the windshield, a sliding canopy and the 2 landing light covers for the wings. Next we have a bag containing the polystyrene cement or glue and 4 pots of water-soluble acrylic paint, dark green, dark earth, sky and black. We also have a Humbrol No. 2 general purpose brush. Then we have the instruction sheet, pages of warnings and advice in many languages. The decal sheet we'll come to in a moment, then the actual instructions. These are always well drawn, very clear, step-by-step instructions to follow. In my videos I often vary from the strict order that Airfix gives, but we'll get there in the end. Then there's a sheet of decals or transfers, markings for an aircraft of 615 Squadron RAF at Kenley in 1940. The decals are well coloured and sharply printed. So that's what we get. Let's see how it all goes together. As usual, the first thing I'm going to do is give the kit a wash in a gentle detergent solution, say a few drops of washing up liquid in a cup of water. This helps the paint to stick to the model later on. Talking of paints, make sure you stir the paint pots well, as they could have been sitting around for quite a while and separated. A cocktail stick or a toothpick works really well for this. The first thing I'm painting is some of the interior parts, so to mimic the interior green of the RAF, I'll mix a little of the number 30 dark green into a bit of the number 90 sky green. And I'll do this on a separate dish. The result is really very close to the accurate colour. I'm painting the cockpit walls and all the interior parts in this mid-green. If the paint looks like it isn't sticking too well, just keep brushing over the spot and it will stick. but don't use too much paint. I remove pieces from the sprues with some side cutters like this, or with a craft knife. Any bits of sprue left on the part can be sanded down. Now I make my own sanding sticks, but you can buy them or even use something like a nail file. One important tip is to use something like a needle, a cocktail stick, or as I've used here, a paper clip to pick up small blobs of the polystyrene cement, as the tube itself often delivers too much. I use an old CD cover to put the glue onto. So here I'm putting the glue around a hole that will take a small lamp cover in the bottom of the fuselage. The lamp cover is put in place using a cocktail stick with a bit of blue tack on the end and then pressed into place. Normally I'd add some silver paint to the back of this, but we don't get any in the kit. Next I'm putting this gas bottle on the front wall of the undercarriage bay. Then that front wall gets placed into the lower wing half. Then there are two side panels and a rear panel that make up the undercarriage well. With all that in place, you can fit the top half of the wing assembly to the bottom half. Press it all together so the locator pins sit correctly, and then you can use tape and clamps to hold it in place. Normal masking tape is great. You can also use things like clothes pegs. You don't have to do this, it just helps. While the wings are setting up, I'm painting in a few equipment bits on the inside of the cockpit in black. Then I'll put down a wash of watered down black paint to bring out some of the structure. Next, back on the wing, I'm putting in the floor and the rudder pedals. After that, the control column or joystick can be added. The next job is to apply a decal to the instrument panel. Cut the decal from the sheet and let it soak in water for about 30 seconds or so. I use an old saucer for this. When the decal is ready, I put a little water on the part, then use tweezers to hold the backing paper and the paintbrush to push the decal into place. When you're happy, leave it for 10 minutes at the very least to set in place. While that's drying, I'm going to assemble part of the rear bulkhead of the cockpit by putting the seat onto it. You can see I've done some dilute black wash on these parts as well. Then the rear bulkhead can be glued into place in the port side of the fuselage. When it's ready, the instrument panel with these bracing bars can go into place. The panel sits in the fuselage and the middle of the bracing bars fits in the bottom of the rear bulkhead. With that done, you can fit the two fuselage halves together. They fit very well indeed, clicking nicely into place. Again, you can tape it all up to set if you like. And when it is dry, you can slot the fuselage onto the middle of the wing section like this. Again, it all fits pretty well. Then behind the wing, on the underside, is a fillet that needs to go in. This allows the main kit to be made as a Sea Hurricane just by changing this particular bit to one that's got an arrestor hook. Next I'll fit the horizontal stabilisers or tailplanes in old money. These fit well and sit horizontally without any fuss. Then the rudder slots in behind the fin or the vertical stabiliser. That all needs to set properly, so I'm going to move on to do a few other bits. First are these radiator screens that get painted black. And while I've got the paint out, I'll do the tyres in black as well, and also the exhaust stubs. Then the radiator screens get placed into the radiator body, like so. Then this radiator inlet gets glued to the front. And when you're ready, this whole assembly can go onto the bottom of the fuselage. The two screens have tabs that fit into these slots in the fuselage. Next is this small air intake for the engine that goes under the fuselage. And then this small piece, I don't really know what it is, but someone, I'm sure, will tell me. Anyway, with all that done, I'm going to start painting the aircraft. I'm starting with the sky green undersides first. Now again, don't put too much paint on and just brush over the part repeatedly so the paint starts to stick. You will need more than one coat, so don't worry about getting it perfect first time. While that's drying, I'm going to assemble the propeller. There's a shaft that goes through this mounting piece, then the prop hub support goes on that, then the propeller, and then the spinner. When the glue's set, you can paint the propeller and the spinner in black. So here you can see I've already given the upper surfaces a coat of the dark earth colour, and you can see how uneven it all is. But don't panic, another coat will sort that out. Another use for this brown is as a wash for the exhausts. It makes them look a bit rusty from a distance, which is a good thing. After a second coat of the dark earth, it looks much more even. So now I'm going to add the dark green. Just follow the layout on the back of the box and the camouflage will soon look absolutely right. You can always touch the dark earth up again later on. Now I can put the engine exhausts in. I can see how good they look. Next is the canopy, and I've put a few dabs of glue on the rim of the cockpit with my paper clip. Then I can use a blob of blue tack on a cocktail stick to guide the windshield into place. When that's set, I'll add some more dabs of glue to the sides of the cockpit, then place the canopy behind the windshield. Notice how it runs over the back of the cockpit. It's actually probably big enough to slide back to the fully open position should you want to. Next I'm putting the glass covers over the lamps in each wing. Again, if I had silver paint, I'd paint the hole in the wing first before putting the cover on top. When the canopy has set nicely in place, I can start to painting. Now, this number 2 brush might be a bit too big and chunky for this job, but don't worry if you go over the canopy lines. When the paint has dried, you can use the sharp end of a cocktail stick to chase off some of the excess. That's one of the advantages of acrylics. Now, if you remembered me using that diluted black colour wash earlier, I'm using the same thing to highlight some of the panel lines in the wings and fuselage. Now this wash will dry more pale than this, so let it dry, have a look again, and then see if you want to go over it once more. Now there's no right or wrong to this, do as much or as little as you want to do. Then I can start applying the decals. I usually do the wings first only because I think it makes the plane come alive. Same process as before, using tweezers and a paintbrush. Next I'll move on to the undercarriage. Now the main wheel leg has to slot underneath this wall, then the leg sits in place and the actuator fits into the front wall of the well. Next, this support arm sits in the wing at one end and the other end fixes to the gear leg. Repeat on the other side. And while those are drying, I'm going to fit the tail wheel into its slot at the back. When the main legs have set solid, the wheels can go on. Now there's a rectangular hole here for a rectangular peg that puts the wheel in the right orientation. The flat spot, now I've taking the paint off for this bit for the clarity, should be behind the leg like this, so they sit properly on the floor when the aircraft's on its wheels. Then the wheel doors can go on, they simply sit against the legs. The last bit underneath is the pitot tube that goes under the port wing like so. Turning the aircraft right way up, I can fit the propeller assembly into the nose like this. The very last piece is the radio mast behind the cockpit, and our Hurricane is complete. Now, I really enjoyed making this kit, and I'm sure you will too. The pieces were clean and well moulded, they all went together with ease, and even the limited amount of paint makes this aircraft look great. Absolutely superb. That's it, the Hawker Hurricane. I think it's a very decent little kit, and it's one I really enjoyed building. If you've enjoyed watching, please remember, thumbs up on the button down there, and of course subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, and you'll be notified of all the new videos as they turn up on the channel. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.